Hello and welcome to the Noobtypes Podcast. My codename is Vermilion, but you can call me Min, and today I'm here with...
Hi, I'm Dan.
Hi, I'm Ellis. We're a couple of idiots who sure do like giant robots.
There is a non-zero chance that people have heard of me from my YouTube channel, but in my review of Gundam Battle Operation 2, which randomly showed up on my channel because I felt like it, I mentioned that I don't really know much about Gundam.
I was about to say, I think that's where we come in for this one, huh? The knowing things about Gundam people.
Yes, indeed. I know that I've watched Gundam since I was but a wee lad. How about you, Ellis?
I think I bought my first model kit when I was 10, for like my first Gunpla. So yeah, it's been a while.
So as a relative newcomer to the franchise, I thought that it would be fun for you two to help me explore the wider world of Gundam and why it's wacky, crazy, and really fun to get into.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It's a weird way to say you're being dragged into the hole.
I'm sure that there's a lot of people who have heard of Gundam, but what exactly is Gundam anyhow? It's about giant robots fighting in space?
Yeah, it's a political drama that has giant robots in it. But no, we're here for the giant robots.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, space politics, even better!
Whoa!
I love politics. They're never bad.
A contentious statement, to be sure.
So Gundam takes place generally in, well, I mean, as I mentioned, in space, but like, is it kind of like galaxy-wide, kind of like Star Wars, or is it more like a smaller scale? Like, what are we talking here?
It's pretty much just the solar system, that the Earth happens to be in. It very seldom ventures out of that. Like, there's a couple of mentions of outer, solar system exploration, but that's about it.
Yeah, it stays mostly centered on humans and interhuman conflicts. Doesn't mean there aren't aliens. Just, not usually.
No, they show up sometimes. You can have aliens as a treat.
And so, I know Gundam is a huge franchise with, like, manga and anime and etc. What would you say is kind of like the main form of content that one would go for?
Probably the animes themselves. They're kind of the bread and butter of most of the series' like continuity.
Yeah, the anime in general spans everything from, spans the years from 1979 to today, and it has very seldomly stopped having something airing. So it's got well over 30 shows at this point.
Wow. Quite the daunting task for a newcomer.
Better than One Piece.
1,000 episodes moment.
1,200.
Oh my god.
So, is this kind of like you just like start all the way back in 1979 and work your way from there, or is there a better starting point, would you say?
Well,
you could do that, yeah.
You could do that, and I would recommend it, depending on your tolerance for 1979 low-budget animation.
Oh, but it's so scrunkly,
It is very scrunkly. If you have ever seen the Gundam face meme, that's where that comes from.
I will have to say, I've gotten about 25 episodes into the original 1979 anime, and I actually really enjoy how, like, goofy it can look at times, because it just, like, it reminds me of, like, the old G1 Transformers cartoon, but in, like, a good way.
Yes. Don't ever confuse Transformers and Gundams. You will have an angry horde of people emailing you in, like, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh.
You will be crucified for such shit.
BBC moment.
But yeah, it does remind me a little bit of G1 Transformers jank. But quite frankly, the story that is behind that janky animation is, in my opinion, pretty fantastic and a good way to get into the anime.
Yeah, I hear that, like, despite the anime itself kind of not being a commercial success initially, it's become really influential in the overall landscape of anime.
Yeah, it was one of those kind of like didn't do very well when it came out initially things, as you said, but like they recut the series into several compilation films, and those did obscenely well when they came out. to the point where one of them, the third one, is still, I think, the third highest grossing piece of Gundam media ever.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy how much the movies saved the franchise. I honestly think that part of the reason the franchise is so beloved today is because, first of all, the movies were popular. The initial crowd that got into the movies was primarily college-age students, which was kind of different from all the other robot animes of the time. And I think...
I was gonna say, a lot of the robot animes from the time were like super robot shows aimed at a much younger demographic.
Exactly.
Unlike Gundam, which quite dark.
Yes, Gundam can be quite dark, although it is not the darkest thing that Yoshiyuki Tomino, the creator of Gundam, has ever made. For that, you probably want to look at Space Runaway Ideon, but we're not here to discuss that.
Yet.
Interesting. So when we're talking, like, it kind of became a phenomenon, like, how big are we talking? What would it be comparable to in the West, would you say?
I would compare it to Star Wars.
Wow, that's...
Something funny about that, like, is that the idea of the lightsabers in Star Wars and the beam sabers in Gundam seem to be a convergent evolution, and Tomino seems a bit mad about that people think that he copied Star Wars.
Interesting. Yeah, I've definitely encountered the sentiment before that, like, beam sabers are just bootleg lightsabers.
No, but they're totally different. It's not actually light, it's particles.
There's stuff
Star
in
Wars
there.
Is like, but actually ours is like a containment field in plasma, and oh my goodness.
Well, I was about to say, Star Wars has midichlorians and we could rib them for that, but yeah, we're not any better on that guard.
No one's out here ribbing us for Noobtypism.
Yeah, it's our own midichlorians, but sillier sometimes.
Sometimes.
So kind of going back to the question of where are the kind of the best places to start in Gundam? I mean, where did you two start?
Well, I mean, I started, like many American millennials, at Toonami. I used to come home and watch Dragon Ball Z after school every day, usually reruns. And then one day, I saw this crazy show about this crazy kid, and that was Gundam Wing. I watched a show about a kid parachuting off of a cliff and disengaging his parachute halfway, down the cliff, breaking his leg, resetting it, and then stealing the parts of someone else's Gundam to go commit crime. And I was captivated.
To go and try and blow up his own Gundam again.
Every 5 minutes, he's like the original Megumi Fushiguro, where he's like, with this sacred treasure I summon. But instead of that, he just has a button that blows up his own Gundam and tries to take everyone with him.
Yeah, no, really, he does this, a lot in the original series. It's kind of crazy he doesn't die much earlier. Well, he doesn't die at all.
Hey, spoilers.
And what about you, Ellis? Where did you start?
So I started a little differently to Dan. So I grew up in the impoverished UK, and we didn't have Toonami. Oh, the shock horror. So, my first exposure to Gundam was in a trip in the US. I saw model kits that were like, ooh, that looks neat. So I bought one, and then I learned what it was, and then I started binge watching most of the shows.
Interesting.
Ellis is a little younger than I am, so by the time he got the model kits, the internet was probably at a point where where you could do that.
You could get access to whatever.
I'm not that much younger than you. I'm not some fucking zoomer.
Interesting. If I were to kind of describe my journey with Gundam so far, it's kind of been really a weird one because when Ellis was first trying to get me into it, at the time, a series called Gino Reconquista was airing, and that turned out to be terrible. Well, we didn't know it at the time because it's not like it was really based on anything. It's like it wasn't an adaptation of a manga or whatever, so we didn't know it was going to be bad.
Yeah, absolutely something. Absolutely something.
Yeah, fast forward to years later, and I get peer pressured into playing the aforementioned Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation 2. Just an absolutely terrible game that has the most addicting gameplay loop at its core. That it's so bad, but we play it pretty much every day.
Every day. We can't stop. We have a problem.
And I've always had like a mild interest in this series, but just never really couldn't figure out where to start. And so then from there, I decided, well, you know what? Why don't I just try out the model kits? I like model kits. I've built one of them before, only to find that like they're like the nomenclature or the nickname plastic crack. We don't give it that for no reason. They're so fun to build. And so then I decided, all right, well, screw it. Like, I guess I'm just like in for a penny, in for a pound. Let's do this.
You're in the hole. You might as well.
you didn't just like take a look into the hole and just, slowly make your way down. You were like, oh, whoops.
I feel like we kind of dragged mid and ankle first.
Ellis's arm came up and
this
grabbed his leg.
This slope sure is slippery, and then I feel something grab my ankle.
Yeah, pretty
now,
much.
I wonder, how much do you think your introduction to Gundam was like influenced by the fact that you knew Transformers beforehand?
That's a good question. I definitely feel like with I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Transformers fan, but I remember there was a time in high school. I had seen some G1 Transformers as a kid before then, but I got sick for like 2 weeks, and I just spent the entire 2 weeks just binge watching all of the DVDs that my parents had of the G1 Transformers cartoon. And so I feel like that kind of primed me to be able to start diving into the original 1979 series, because I like the serious parts, and then there's some parts where I'll just burst out laughing because there'll be some absolutely goofy animation error, or like just I remember there's a part where the main character, Amuro Ray, is mourning the loss of another character, and like in the middle of this like reverie of thought, all of a sudden another character starts talking to him, and the dramatic music that was going along with his mourning just cuts, and it's silent for the music in the background, and it was so unironically funny to me. So just like the janky bits to that of the original cartoon are almost like endearing to me. It just adds to the charm.
Yeah, that's probably not intentional, but I agree with you. Nowadays, a lot of the stuff that was probably serious back then just kind of is hilarious.
It's definitely limited by the technology of its time, that's for sure.
Still a great watch, though.
I definitely feel like there are people who just kind of refuse to like even watch the original show on principle that it's so old, and I will never understand.
I was
that.
one of those people. I have a Gundam confession to make.
All right, Dan, I'm just gonna come over and crucify you real quick.
Good luck.
All right, we are hereby convened for the trial of Dan.
Yeah, we are judged.
Yeah, I watched Zeta before I watched the original because I was like, how far back can I go before my eyes stop bleeding? Like before they start bleeding, rather. So I was like, okay, this animation looks okay. This animation looks okay. Ooh, the Zeta Gundam is very cool. Big mistake, by the way. Don't do that. Don't do what I do. Do as I say.
Zeta Gundam, I take it requires like a lot of context from the original.
It is a lot better
it's a
with
direct
context.
sequel.
A lot better with context. But you can watch it on its own. Basically, every Gundam series, except Seed Destiny, can be watched on its own.
Interesting.
But yeah, you miss out a lot of important context clues if you do that. So it is best to watch the ones that are in the same chronology in order.
Yeah, you start to wonder why this one guy keeps mentioning this other guy named Amuro Ray and longingly stares out at the window for him.
Oh goodness. There's a joke that I keep repeating that I'm starting to realize how true it is, that it ain't Gundam if it's not at least a little bit homoerotic.
Yeah, there's always something a little gay happening.
Does that mean then that like each series is not quite it's kind of self-contained, but there are some that are sequels to other ones? Is it kind of like almost like Final Fantasy in that regard?
Yes and no. Some are direct sequels, some are in their own chronologies, so you need absolutely nothing on the base of them. So the main timeline that most people will, if they're talking about Gundam as a whole, they usually mean the Universal Century.
Okay.
And that's a string of series, so then they're all set in the same chronology.
Okay. So the Universal Century is kind of the prime timeline, if you will, and then like all the other ones kind of run parallel to it or are kind of offshoots.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, there are some that are pretty similar, there are some that are very different and weird.
Okay.
Yeah, UC is like if you watched all the Star Wars movies, and then, if you go from, 0079, which in this case is just called Mobile Suit Gundam, it's called 0079 or First Gundam, depending on who you ask. It goes that, then Zeta, then Double Zeta, then the movie Char's Counterattack, then Unicorn, I guess, the narrative, it goes on.
Oh, for a second there, I was thinking you were going to whip out a triple Zeta.
Honestly?
Man, I don't understand this trilogy at all. Zeta Gundam, Double Zeta, Zenless Zone Zero. So what would you say are like the most like prominent parallel timelines then to Universal Century?
So at the moment, the most prominent shows have to be Wing, because that's where most Americans got their start and saw, Gundam for the first time. Not just Americans, but I believe Canadians as well. Someone who's...
Yeah, most of the Western audience they got exposed to when it got imported,
Yep.
I guess.
Bracket places that were not Europe.
Seed and Seed Destiny are still massively popular in Japan. They're a little less popular here in the West. They just had a new movie, Seed Freedom, which is a follow-up to Seed and Seed Destiny. Please do not try to... I mean, you can try to watch that movie without any context, but you will be massively confused.
You'll have no idea what's going on.
And which from Mercury would probably be the third most popular.
Yeah. It was definitely a really big like breakout success compared to some of the other recent stuff. I remember, so I keep up with some kind of more general like AniTube stuff, and there was quite a lot of buzz around Witch from Mercury because everybody was praising like, oh, the animation is great, you don't have to know anything about Gundam to get into it, like it's just a really good show, and it seems to have maintained that success.
Yes.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of people's jumping on point because just of how approachable it seemed. It was just the right amount of goofy and serious for a lot of people.
Yeah, I've heard it described as like Lycoris Recoil, but with giant robots.
Yeah, and somehow more gay.
More gay, whoa.
I'll not say how, but
Supposedly it's up for interpretation.
We don't agree with that necessarily, but we'll just leave it there.
We're never letting Bandai live that down.
Oh, goodness.
Just for a little context for the viewers, there are certain things we won't mention because Min hasn't seen some of these series yet.
But I learn about things primarily through meme osmosis, so I'll know the memes about stuff and reference them without really knowing the source material a lot of times.
Yeah, he's a parrot. But for memes.
Yep. In general, getting back to Witch from Mercury, that's a great starting point, I also think. I think everyone here has a different idea of where you should start, so I'll open the floor. Ellis, where do you think you should start Gundam?
So if you want to start Universal Century, the beginning, or if you don't want to commit to that much stuff, I think 00 is a pretty good jumping on point.
Would you say Gundam The Origin is a good starting point? I mean, it's got The Origin in the title, right?
If you read the manga, yes. If you watch the anime, God, no.
It's funny that you say that, because I've had quite a few people who have just watched Gundam The Origin, the OVAs, and they quite enjoyed it.
Just for a little context on that more specifically, what the Gundam The Origin OVAs adapt, I think, is the 5th or 6th manga volume, which is entirely about Char's backstory.
Interesting.
It actually entirely glosses over anything that was that would have been shown in the original, first Gundam.
I think we need to talk about who Char is now.
That's right.
Yes.
So we've thrown around names like Amuro Ray and I guess now Char. From what I know, because I've seen the first 25 episodes, they're typically referred to as almost like deuteragonists of the UC timeline. So like dual protagonists.
Like Simone and Kamina.
Or I guess if you've seen Code Geass, freaking Lelouch and Suzaku.
Yeah, it's pretty much that. I think it's very similar to that dynamic.
I know, like, in the original series, it starts off with the two main factions being the Earth Federation and the Principality of Zeon, with Amuro Ray fighting for the Earth Federation and Char Asimov fighting for Principality of Zeon at first. I take it this is kind of a series where that dynamic shifts a bunch. That's kind of the impression that I've gotten so far.
Yes, so the Earth Federation isn't, they aren't always the good guys. They're just the side we're watching.
Yeah.
Amuro gets pulled in, and they have no problem having a 15-year-old boy out there having, like, life or death encounters every 5 minutes. They'll just use him. That's not exactly heroic.
Yeah, I saw this one image summing it up where it's like, men, this is our most dangerous mission yet. Send in the 15-year-old.
Very accurate.
Yeah, Gundam as a whole tends to not be a huge proponent of, like, black or white morality. It's mostly a gray morality type thing where everyone's kind of a bad person a lot of the time. It doesn't glamorize one side over the other for the most part.
I definitely feel like I'm drawing parallels because I've seen the entirety of the live action adaptation of The Expanse, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm getting a lot of parallels to that, like especially like they're both set mostly within just the solar system. They've got multiple factions, kind of mostly fighting for their own self-interest, with bigger forces at play, kind of pitting them against each other.
I have heard The Expanse described as the closest thing you can get to Gundam that is not animated, and I'll be real, having watched all of the show at this point, it is, and having been told about a little bit about the books following the show, oh boy, it really is.
I've heard someone else describe it as like The Expanse is Gundam if it were about submarine warfare instead of giant robots.
That's the thing about Gundam. It changes over the years, since 1979. It likes to change with the political landscape of the time and does a fantastic job of that. However, the only thing that stays constant, besides the giant robots and the children piloting them, is everyone sucks. There is no true good faction.
And just briefly touching on some other newer additions to the franchise, I suppose, since I'm sure audiences who have heard some more things about Gundam in recent years might have questions about. I know about, 10 years ago now, there was a series called Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Wow, I feel old.
I really like Iron-Blooded Orphans. It's What If Gundam, but the world is even worse. There's basic child slavery.
Oh no.
There's no magic beam lasers. You're hitting things with giant metal maces. It's great. Do not watch it if you like happy endings, because the show is rough, but it's fantastic.
It hurts real good.
I guess whether or not you'd consider that a good entry point is down to personal taste, I suppose. And then the last one I wanted to ask about, as of the time of recording, this is something that's just now coming out within like the past month or so. There's a Gundam series with a really goofy title that's animated by the same studio that made the Evangelion remakes. I know the two of you have seen it. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. What is your takes on it so far? Because I know they're starting it off as a movie and then kind of doing a full series from there, from what I understand.
Not even that. The movie was cut up at the first 3 episodes.
3 to 4.
Okay.
You're talking about GQuuuuux, right?
Yeah, GQuuuuux.
That is certainly a way to pronounce that, but with a title spelled GQuuuuuux. What? How do I pronounce that?
I prefer GQuuuuux, like we're talking about a duck.
Ah, yes. Untitled GQuuuuux.
So that is an interesting case where it takes the stance of an entirely different take on UC, on First Gundam. It says, what if Char Aznable, instead of being the rival, just gets the Gundam instead? What does that world look like? So it's kind of like an alternate timeline take on Zeta Gundam, but like distorted by Char having the Gundam instead of Amuro ever existing.
Yeah, it causes a lot of really weird knock-on effects.
Interesting. Kind of like an exploration of, like, what if we butterflied affect the original setting by changing this one variable?
Yes.
Interesting. So it sounds like maybe not necessarily the best starting point because the main draw of it is within the context of the original.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, you need to know most of how UC plays out to know why the things that are happening in that matter.
So we talked a lot about the anime and touched a little bit on the manga for Gundam. The manga seems to be mostly supplemental material from kind of what I've gathered so far. But what's interesting, and then we've kind of mentioned this a little bit, is like Gundam is more than just anime and manga. There's the model kits, and there's actually quite a few interesting developments as well, where it's kind of becoming a full-blown like multimedia thing with like Warhammer 40K, from what I understand.
Yeah, there's been a real push in the past couple years to kind of get Gundam out to a bigger audience. There's a joke inside the Gundam fandom that like Bandai will try to market Gundam to the West and then fall and scrape their knee and never market to the West again, or at least for 20 years it seems like.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Gundam Evolution.
Rest in peace, Gundam Evolution. You did a great job.
You tried so hard and got so far, but in the end,
Gundam Evolution fell on its face so that freaking Gundam Assemble could run, I guess.
Yeah. So Gundam Assemble is one of the new projects. It's going to be a miniatures game just like Warhammer, or maybe closer to Battletech. Ellis, you would know more about that.
yeah, based on the way the boards are laid out, and it seems to be more small skirmish orientated, like Battletech, where you have usually between 1 to max maybe 8 models. You know,
Okay.
instead of Warhammer, where you can have literal hundreds on a single board.
That sounds like it'd be great for accessibility, because I know one of the reasons why I haven't really gotten too much into Warhammer yet is just the sheer expense of having to buy all these models.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah, definitely.
it was between buying a house or playing Warhammer, and honestly,
I chose playing Warhammer. I make bad financial decisions.
I let him make them for me.
Live vicariously through the irresponsible decisions of your friends.
Yeah, so I'm quite excited about Gundam Assemble, and I think they chose the right market to go for with it. I think if it's popular, they could maybe expand it out to a bigger game, or like have different rules for bigger skirmishes, but I think starting small scale with, from what we've seen, very reasonably priced models, the price point seems to be about like $8 for a single model, like for a single miniature.
Wow.
And for how nice they look, and how nice they seem to assemble, because we haven't gotten them out yet, but we've seen people get previews, and yeah, they look pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, that's one thing that I watch a lot of YouTube, and one interesting kind of phenomenon I've noticed crop up, especially recently, is a bunch of Warhammer YouTubers being like, hey, so I discovered Gundam model kits and they're actually freaking rad. and especially, and one thing they always mention without fail is how they're like, wow, I'm paying like less than I would for a single Warhammer model and getting like 5 runners instead of a single one.
For a little context, like, I play Imperial Knights, which is actually one of the most cost-effective armies you can play in Warhammer, but I'm still spending like 105 Great British pounds on a model that could make up about 40% of the most basic game you can play in Warhammer's point cost, whereas I could buy one of the older perfect grades for that.
Perfect grade. That's interesting you mentioned that.
Yeah.
This is something that I guess I could talk a little bit about, because I've definitely gotten more heavily into the Gundam model kits than I have the actual source material as of right now. But the Gundam model kits are kind of really, there's kind of a structure to how their price points and how detailed they are. I guess we can start with the most. Really, technically, there's entry grade, which is like Babby's first model kit. And most people tend to not really talk about those because, for starters, there's not many of them. But also, like, if you are over the age of 10, you don't really need the extra simplicity of an entry grade. They are dirt cheap though, so if you want to just test the waters, like, go buy an entry grade and see if you like it.
Yeah, they're really easy to put together, and you could really just start with a high grade, but
Yeah, so the next step up would be high grade. This is my personal favorite tier because it strikes a really good balance between detail and price. They are honestly kind of dirt cheap, especially if you buy secondhand, which makes it perfect for me because I love customizing. If I were to take one of the more expensive ones and try to customize it, I'd be sweating bullets the entire time. But the high grade kit can be as cheap as like $20 for a single kit. And so yeah, if I screw up a $20 kit, like, oh well, I get another one and I fix it.
And even then, that $20 kit's gonna be a really nice $20 kit.
Yeah, it's especially the more recent ones. They've had like a quantum leap in their engineering quality. Like the Witch from Mercury kits are all sublime to build, and it's crazy how, like, so another interesting thing that is very different about Gundam model kits that I know a lot of people note compared to, like your typical like airplane model kits, is all the pieces fit together without glue.
Yeah, like the fact that these kits are snapped together for the vast majority of time. There's a few that have reinforcing screws if they're like particularly big or have like strange shapes.
But yeah, honestly, like, Gundam model kits have absolutely spoiled me to the point where, honestly, I'm like, if you are making model kits in the year of our Lord 2025 and they do not snap together in a satisfying manner, that is an engineering skill issue.
Yeah, there still are some non-Gundam model kits that are robot-based that just... Yeah, they try snapping some of those together. Your fingers will be bleeding by the end of it.
As somebody that has built more Frame Arms Girls and Megami Device kits than anyone else here, yeah, man. Building them fucking sucks.
Yeah, they have really sharp edges for some reason.
Yeah, it's like the designers hate your fingers.
Yeah.
That you can feel the malice from the design intent going into all these sharp edges.
So yeah, my personal favorite is high grade. I guess if we were to do one step above that, it would be they call real grade, which it's like they took the step above so there is the next major tier above high grade is master grade. We'll get into that in a second, but they tend to have a lot more detail than high grade. And but the main thing with master grade is they're like a lot physically bigger than high grade. And so real grade is almost like Bandai going, okay, but what if we had all the detail of the bigger one, but the same size as the smaller ones?
Real grade is actually fairly new, is what I was going to say, and then I looked at the date, and it came out in 2010, so, it's just me being old.
15 years. Oh my
I can feel myself turning to dust at the mention of 2010.
No, what was even worse is, so I had like a little bit of a peek behind the curtain for my audience. I actually teach an extracurricular program part-time, and so and funnily enough, I wind up showing my videos to these kids. And so when I showed one set of kids my Tower of Fantasy review, and it got to the part where I said in the narration, the year is 2014. One of the kids watching blurted out, "That's the year I was born!" And I felt my bones like prepare themselves to crumble to dust.
That hurts me on a fundamental level.
Oh my goodness. But like going back to real grade, it is comparatively new because some of these things have been going for a lot longer than, like an additional decade or two longer than real grade. So that's why we still think of it as a new thing, even though, at this point they've been doing it for 15 years. Holy cow.
Yeah.
And then I did mention kind of the next big step above that are the master grades. They're definitely noticeably more expensive per kit, but they're also bigger, more detail. They got that skeleton on the inside that you then put the armor on. I have one master grade kit, but I haven't built it yet. I'm a little nervous about it, but I will get around to it eventually. I just also have a comically large backlog of model kits right now.
Yeah, I realized one of the things we forgot to mention was scales.
Yeah. So we did mention that high grade is smaller, and the number that is always shown is 1/144th scale. So it's kind of a weird number, but that basically means that these I've noticed that like the high grades are around the same size as your typical like 6-inch action figure.
Yeah, so like, and then the master grades tend to be 1/100.
Yeah, there are some really old high grades that are 1/100. I think
there's some high grade. There's
old...
the high grade EXs that I saw, because I saw one for the Burning Gundam the other day that was 1/60, which is the same scale as perfect grades.
Oh, speaking of perfect grade, yeah, I guess the final boss of so the Gundam model kits are typically referred to as Gunpla because of Japanese etymology, which is something I'd love to break down, but we'll skip that
there.
talk for later.
We'll probably get there in the Gunpla episode.
Yeah. So anyways, the final boss of Gunpla are the perfect grades, which are bigger, badder, more detail, and of course, with a sizable price tag to match.
Yeah, like a lot of the original first like 3 or 4 perfect grades, the RX-78-2, the Gundam, the Zaku and Char Zaku, which are the same kit, but one is red, and the Gundam Mark II, they're expensive, but they're sorry, Dan just went and grabbed his not finished Gundam Mark II perfect grade. I will not stop ribbing him about the fact he hasn't finished it.
It's in the backlog.
Everything is in the backlog.
Let he who has not a pile of shame cast the first stone.
Yeah. But yeah, so the older perfect grades tend to be, about $100, kind of $120. The newer ones get real goddamn expensive. The perfect grade Unleashed RX-78-2 is like $250, I think. Yeah, and then, if you want to talk about other stuff that you can add, LED kits!
Oh yeah, you can make them light up.
I spent far too much money on an LED kit for the Unicorn Gundam perfect grade. It was nearly as much as the whole goddamn kit itself.
So yeah, it's... What really impresses me about Gunpla as a hobby is not only is the experience of actually assembling it and also customizing it just absolutely a blast on its own, even if you don't have context for it, but there's a whole range out there for all kinds of tastes, where if you just want something, quick and cheap and fun, you got the high grades. And then if you really have just your absolute favorite design, granted there aren't as wide of a selection of these, but you can go all out with master grades and perfect grades, and There's even some like wacky things like metal builds that we might touch on in the Gunpla episode.
Yeah, if you hate your wallet.
There, in addition to kind of the upcoming war game with Gundam Assemble, and of course there's the model kits that we've talked to at great length about. I know Dan has really gotten into the upcoming Gundam card game as well.
Yes, I am a Bandai TCG liker. I started with Digimon, and that's an excellent card game, but not what we're talking about today. The Gundam card game coming up is well designed, well thought out, really fun.
I'm personally keeping my eye on it for sure. It also has one of the worst marketing slogans I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh. What is it again? I know it ends with play the new type, which is the stupidest.
What does that even mean?
It doesn't mean anything.
I know I know kind of what a new type is. What do you mean play the new type?
Think space psychics. People who are space psychics. So how do you play that?
Place it face down in defense position, I guess.
Perhaps this is something that was better in Japanese and doesn't make any frickin' sense here in the States and the UK.
Maybe it's just equally as shitty in Japanese.
Yeah, I'd have to take a look, and even then I wouldn't say I'm the most reliable source on how something would be perceived by a native speaker, at least.
Yeah, it's pretty confuzzling.
But anyhow, so how would you say the Gundam trading card game actually plays? Like, is it comparable to like Magic the Gathering, or what would you say it's kind of close to?
I think it's a mashup between the Digimon TCG, the One Piece TCG, and Magic the Gathering.
Interesting.
So it uses a resource system, which is like One Piece's Dawn deck. I don't play One Piece. I just know a little bit about the card game for context. So basically your mana, you get one every turn. There are ways to accelerate that, but it lives in a separate deck and you can get up to 10. You use these resources to play out mobile suits, which, have a level and a cost. They are not the same. The level is determined by the number of resources you have out, and the cost is how much you have to pay for it. So you can have a level 5 card, which means you have to have 5 resources out, that costs 4, so you're never using all of your resources on one big swingy play.
Interesting.
Which I think is very nice.
Yeah, from the limited amount I've played of it, a lot of the cards seem to have higher levels than they have costs. So that it means that you can't, like, one turn kill somebody, for example, like in Yu-Gi-Oh.
It's quite interesting. It works off the life system that One Piece uses, where you have shields, which are 5 cards off the top of your deck, and you try to reduce your opponent's shields to 0 by attacking them, and then hit them when they have no shields to win the game.
Okay. It's definitely, especially because I haven't played Digimon or the other Bandai trading card games, definitely sounds like it plays very different from the ones I've played, which is Yu-Gi-Oh! And just a little dabbling of Magic. So I definitely am looking forward to trying it out and having a different experience, I guess.
Don't worry, I'll make you.
Again, from what I played, the experience is definitely a lot more streamlined, unlike Magic. You don't really run into a situation where you don't know what you can do. Because, like, in Magic, you can get cards that you're just like, well, what the hell do I do with this? Because, it's got mucho texto on the description.
Well, goodness. Maybe in 10 sets.
Yeah, I can't wait for the G-Self to come out and have, with the Photon Torpedo Pack and have the mucho texto description.
His signature attack, wall of text.
Yeah, my signature attack, random bullshit, go!
Spend the rest of the game reading this card and then run out of time.
Real.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the most exciting thing about Gundam is, especially with these upcoming two big additions to the franchise with Gundam Assemble and the trading card game. There's a lot of different ways to enjoy Gundam, even if you don't necessarily want to dive into the back catalog of the anime or spend $200 on supplies so you can build a $20 kit.
Okay, you don't need to spend $200 on supplies.
But it's fun.
You can just rip them out with your hands, right?
Oh, goodness.
I saw somebody building a Sazabi with, like, scissors.
That's cursed.
Please at least buy model cutters, please.
Yeah, we'll definitely be going through all the ins and outs during our Gunpla episode, but really, quite honestly, just get yourself a nice pair of hobby cutters, and you can just start there. Anybody who says otherwise for your starting point is being an elitist.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, by the way, I got the slogan for the TCG finally.
Oh, dear.
It is Link the Universe, play the new type.
Oh, gosh.
What does this mean?
Yeah, Link the Universe, kinda, but like...
Link is a mechanic.
Yeah, like I kinda get... And it has some kind of nebulous meaning that's like, alright, that's fine. But yeah, then play the new type, huh?
You just sip the new type juice. That's what it means.
Let's not talk about new type juice, please.
Oh, goodness.
Fine, what about coordinator juice? Are we talking about that?
Oh my god. I'm losing more hair as we speak.
All right. Well, I think that will do it for this episode. But if there's anything I want to leave for the audience, it's that there has never been a better time to get into Gundam than now. And there are plenty of great starting points. If you want to start with the anime, you can do Double O, you can do Wish for Mercury, you can do Iron-Blooded Orphans, or heck, do what I'm doing and start with the original 1979 anime. If you love goofy crap like the G1 Transformers cartoon, trust me, you'll love it.
Or you could start with F91 and be wrong.
Don't do that. Whatever you do, don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. But honestly, like when if you just want to do the model kits, or you just want to do the trading card game when that comes out, or you just want to do Gundam Assemble when that comes out, that's perfectly fine. Honestly, like I will probably be repeating this during the Gunpla episode, but the most valid way of choosing which Gunpla to build is picking one that you think looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, my name has been Codename Vermilion.
I'm Dan.
I'm Ellis.
And we'll catch you next time on the Noobtype Podcast.